Computer. Well, a very good evening to you. This is a Tuesday evening, the 24th of August, 2021. Wow. Can you believe how time is flying? So tonight we're going to have an interactive session in terms of myself just helping you get your brain aligned to how you can actually take any word and through an acronym express how you feel. Now, I hope you guys did your homework because I am going to do this exercise 3 times over tonight. But before we do that, I would like us to start with what I call the timeline of life. So what I would like you to do is to literally draw a line from left to right, which is your timeline for life. I want you to start with 0, 5, 10, 15, and actually have a little arrow every 5 years. Now, for some of us, I mean, if that will be 60, if I'm just to average mine out, 60 divided, how many times will that be? It's 6. So I'm going to have 12. I'm going to have 12. 12, thank you. So I'm going to have 12 blotches for myself. So I want everybody of us to do exactly the same. And we're going to do the timeline of life. Every single person's is different. 0, and then obviously
mine will be only 3.
30 in the middle, and then I want you to
how young you still are.
So do all the 10s in between. So that'll be 10, that'll be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. All right, you don't have to actually write down the 5s, but you, as 0, 10 in my case, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then obviously now the +2. So what I want you to do is to realize that in view of how we look at life, we have the 4 seasons of life, and that tonight I'm going to be talking to you about what influences our lives. Now, if you look at the 4 seasons, let's start with 1, summer, followed by
Fall.
what follows summer?
Fall is what
Autumn.
is it called? Harvest.
Autumn.
Autumn, correct?
Autumn.
And following autumn will be winter,
Yeah,
and following winter would be spring.
spring.
Now, just doing it in that sequence, and I'm going to ask that you can write this 4 times. I want you to realize that although we talk about the 4 seasons, we have 4 effects on how it's going to affect our lifeline. I'm going to be helping us understand where we are. So the next one is, now what you do is you start with the second one. If the first one started with summer, now you're going to start with autumn.
Oh, I
Okay.
see. Yeah,
And autumn will go into winter. And winter will go into spring.
Summer.
And spring will go into summer. That's option 2.
Yeah.
Option 3,
Winter.
now you will have winter
Winter.
into spring,
Spring.
into summer,
Autumn.
into autumn.
Autumn.
Is that correct?
And then spring. Yeah.
And then the last variant will then obviously be starting with spring,
Mhm.
into summer,
Autumn.
into autumn,
Into winter.
into winter. Now,
Okay.
if we look at these 4 choices, when you look at your lifeline, I gave you this as a point of departure because you will realize that we go through the cycle of life and there will be seasons in our life. We all know the association with summer. Summer is where everything is running well, things are blossoming full time, life is enjoyable, everybody enjoys it. When you go to autumn, it's sort of like life holding you back a little bit. We can see that the green leaves now becomes orange leaves and start falling off the tree. And we all understand that it's a season where we sort of pull the belt in a bit. Then when they come to winter, winter is really where it's cold, it's stark, life's not good, and you can't wait for your situation to change. Spring is that hope of, winter's over, there's new life, there's new blossoms, I am looking at my life going in a different direction. Now, it all depends on where you start, because the starting point for each one of us is different. Now, I do believe all of us actually start off with the summer of life. I really believe that, because you're raised by your parents, life is easy, and then when you get to a life of maturity, you'll see now how your timeline will affect your seasons. So what I want you to do is, on top of your line, I want you to make a positive on the side and the negative at the bottom. So if I can just quickly show this to you guys, there's mine. Can you see the positive and the negative there?
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is only write down major influences in your life on this timeline. Something that had an adverse effect on you. Now, positive would be something great that happened to you. Negative would be something that you know played a role. Like I know my first negative was at 5 years. So what you do is you draw an arrow and I write there, pram. I know what that means. Then I also know that 13, head boy. So you sort of just populated like this. Can you see there? I had an incident with a pram at the age 5 that actually played a vital role in my life. And positive is when I was 13, I was head boy. So that plays a role in terms of who I am, who I became. So can everybody please just take 2 minutes and populate the biggest events in your life across this timeline. So that's step 1. Starting now, please go ahead.
So you can populate it as much or as little as you like, eh?
Correct. Yeah, just broad strokes, guys. Just broad strokes. Very important. What I'm really looking for is that you're at least looking at about 5 things on top and 2 or 3 things at the bottom. That's really what I'm looking for. The major things that affected your life. I'll give another minute.
So it's amazing that in some time spans you can have a positive and a negative. It's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely.
It might be the same thing. But that's it.
Okay, that should be sufficient time, because what you're going to do is, after tonight, this is part of your homework. I'm just going to guide you with the essence of what it does for you. So what we're going to do is all I want to ask each person is, what is the age of your first negative experience? And what is the age of your first significant positive experience? Vilma, we'll start with you. What is your age? And I'm just going to take it down, so it'll be Vilma. So the plus and the minus. Vilma.
Okay, the minus was sexual abuse at the age of 8.
Age of?
At 8.
8. And then the positive?
And the positive, like, and that's why I have to laugh at Liz. I had written positive at the same time. I knew that God was with me.
Okay, but can I ask that I know that is the solution, that God gave you the peace.
But it was a physical experience.
Okay, that's different. Okay, that's different.
Yeah.
So it was also at the age of 8.
The knowledge, also at the age of 8.
Great. Let's take the next person. So that was Vilma. Next I can see is Liz. Your dates for your positive and negative?
I think my first negative was when we moved away from where I've always been on the farm and things like that, and we moved into town. or a different city. I was 10 years old and in the middle of primary school, so that was very traumatic.
Yeah.
And then high school, deputy head girl in matric, which was a very high point in my life. But then that same year, my parents decided to move back to another farm. So I had to give that positive, that high, I had to give up my badge when I went to the new high school in the middle of my matric year.
So you were a 13 when you head girl, eh?
No, that was 17 when I was in matric.
Matric, okay, right,
Yeah.
17. Okay, good. So, Leonie, give me your age for positive and negative.
First -3 and then first positive 17.
Wow. Okay, Leonie. This is going to play a role just now. Sonia.
Right, my first negative was at the age of 9 and first positive was at the age of 15.
Okay. Shalane.
First positive was at the age of 10 and negative age of 15.
Okay. Willie.
First positive when I was born, when I saw my dad. No, I'm joking. First positive at a negative at 12 when I was belittled.
Yeah.
And at 13 when I got the Victor Ledorum.
Okay. So that'd be Victor and it was belittled. Okay. Then I have Marina.
Exact age, but my dad used to drink a lot. So since I can remember, at that thing, and I was, I think, standard 5. How old are you then? 14,
13?
15. I was selected for the netball regional. Yeah, I was, the positive net.
The positive was 13. And what age was the negative? The rest of you, can you just mute yourself when you're not speaking? What was your negative age?
Say about 6, 7 years, 7, 8 years.
7. Okay, good. Thank you, Marina. Michelle.
Sorry, Doc. We battled to get in. Can you just repeat the question for us?
Okay, what we're busy with the timeline of your life. We start with 0 and then go 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and then 5 years in between. And what you need to do is to recall what was your first recollection of a negative experience in your life, and just draw a little arrow down on the negative and write down what it was. And then look at the first time you experienced a positive, and a little line up and write what the positive was. And I'm asking what was the age of the first positive experience? What was the age of the first negative experience?
Okay, Doc. The first positive experience was at the age of 2.
Yeah.
That is when I received my first bike, and that was very special. Then the first negative experience was when I was 6 in sub R. That's the grade 1 now, as they call it, when my parents got divorced.
Okay, Anton.
My first negative experience. Okay, I'm going to go to the first positive because that for me is easier. So I think the first positive was for me when I actually excelled in sport and received my provincial colors. That was age 13.
And the first age of negative?
I cannot actually really recall because
you don't have to tell me what it is, you just have to tell me the age.
Yeah, young, 2 years.
2 years. Good.
Mm.
And last, Tess. Tessa? Okay, Tessa, you're still muted. If you're going to answer, or you're you can do chat box as well. Doesn't matter. Anyone of the two. Okay, I'll wait for Tessa to come back to me later. Right. One thing I want to share with everybody here is that in life, it's the 80-20 principle. 80% of people would have experienced the negative first in their lives and the positive second. And it was exactly the case here with us as an entire group going through everybody. Only 2 people had it the other way around. The rest of us all had the negative experience first and the positive experience later. Now, back to the learning on seasons. So if that is the case, can you see that although we were born in summer, our first experience, which literally is a winter experience, was the average age we're talking, I'm just going to give you all the negatives, was 7, 8, 9, 3, 10, 2. So the average is, call it the age of 7. Now, in terms of child development, I'm going to share something with you guys tonight. In child development, from 0 to 3 years is what we call it. Actually, from 0 to 2 years is what we call attachment. Attachment is the phase where the child is attached to the mother's breast. So it's the attachment. So we all need to be attached. Then we have from 3 to 7 is what we call identification. This is where we identify either with our father or our mother, or our father and our mother, or with neither. That plays a vital role. Then from the age of 7 to 12 is the age of what we call comparison. This is where we start comparing ourselves. Now, if I look at the experiences here, it's sort of is on the cusp of everybody is in that end of how to identify with my mom and my dad, and then going into the comparison where you start comparing yourself with your peers at school. If I look at the average age, can you see how life deals us lemons sometimes? Because we are born in summer, but most of us have either a winter or an autumn experience at that threshold of crossing over from identification to comparison. That is what happens. Now, your turn to participate. How do you think that will influence the rest of our lives? Or how would that influence you until you've had your first positive experience? Shalane, you're the only one that can't answer here because your positive was before your negative. So unfortunately, you are the lucky one in the class. So let's start with the rest. Vilma, let's start with you. How do you think this will influence us when you look at the seasons that we were discussing? Sound, Vilma?
Influence us or influence me? The negative. How does it influence me?
Yes.
Today, what happened there?
Yeah. If you look at seasons of life, how long did you stay in that winter season? Although you had the positive and the negative, were you able to, yours is unique, that your positive and negative was the same age. So were you able to move back into summer because of your experience with God, or were you still in autumn or winter for a long time? That's what I'm trying, that's what I'm after.
No, I went into spring, summer. This was until I was 10, 11, and then I was in spring, summer for a number of years.
Okay.
But it kept on biting. But I have a very good freezer, so I froze things away. I put it away, and I Dinkum did not remember. So out of that negative, the positive state.
Yeah, okay. Now that's a state that we call blocking out.
At the age of 42.
Okay, now blocking out, we think is positive. Blocking out, in fact, is very negative to our progress and our growth. Because until we have owned that which we have blocked out and found a solution for it, it actually will always leave a void in terms of feeling fulfilled. Because this whole exercise is about life's fulfillment. What drops the fulfillment are all the negative experiences. What adds to the fulfillment are all the positive experiences. Now, your homework is, and I just started us off tonight because I wanted to give you one of the techniques that I use in helping people re-establish a positive life attitude. Because I meet 80% of people are still living in either autumn or winter, and they never broke free from that which in the first place brought a negative experience across. And no one has taught them how to break free and what will make the difference. I'm going to give you a tip. I want you to write down head, heart, hands. Because
we did that, yeah.
Head, heart, hands plays a vital role in terms of how you and I learn how to break free and to break through from a winter or an autumn or a winter into a spring, into a summer. But what I want you to see is from autumn to winter to spring to summer is a process.
Yes.
You just do not jump from autumn straight to summer. It doesn't happen.
The one has to necessarily follow
You
the other.
have to go through the winter. That means you get the low point so that you can get into spring, so you can get into summer again. And that is the spiral of life, and that's reality. Now, the purpose of your lifeline is to continue in doing this exercise. And I would like you to go and just mull over it and see what this exercise teaches you. Okay, Liz, what is your deduction with what you've heard so far and what you've learned now?
I think when I had my negative experience when I was 10, my parents were very stable, and they created a nice home environment where we were totally loved. There was never any fighting. My parents were very secret. They went into the bedroom and closed the door and had a civil conversation with each other. So we settled down quite nicely very soon. And they were always enthusiastic about what we were doing and so on. So my time was, I think maybe 3 or 4 months after we moved was very bad. And even again, when I achieved what I achieved at high school, and then they made the decision that they wanted to move back to the farm, and I had the decision, and they gave me, and they said, do you want to stay with family and remain in your position, or do you want to come with us? And then on top of that, I had to go to boarding school because in town where we moved to, they didn't have the subjects that I had. But I made that choice to say, yes, I will go with you and I will do everything that was necessary. So coming from the stable home, I think that transition was easy for us to go from that winter time. The spring started soon and summer and so on. So yeah, I didn't ponder long on those negatives.
Now, interesting that in the first two, there are top 4 reasons for stress in females' lives. It so happens that 2 of the 4 already mentioned in the discussion. Moving, divorce, and sexual abuse are the top 3 out of the top 4 for female. Isn't that interesting? So the point is, the breakthrough that you require is all the wins that will actually cancel all the negatives. Sometimes a negative is just so big that you just can't break free. So right, I just want to get a feel around the table. So Leonie, can you maybe just get us what's the emotion and what is the learning so far?
I think when your winter period is a full prolonged period, say starting at the age of 3 and then ending at the period of 17, where you don't have support, or as a child, no one taught you or took your hand and helped you through that, not even acknowledging what's happening. You learn to cope. You think you learn to cope. the last of the worst was at the age of 17, but then I also nearly died of bleeding ulcers at the age of 17.
Yeah.
And that's where the turnaround came, where I decided that I'm in control of my life, where I realized, and if I look at my timeline, it's just interesting how relationships and performance and achievements was both my lows and my highs. And so I think when you're in a winter period for long, and thank God in that period, I met at the age of 12 my spiritual family. Our pastor moved across the road and I grew up in their house, and they're learning to become stronger as a person, learning to use your voice, and realizing at the age of 17, enough is enough. You know, when you start achieving and adding value to those things. So I think having a prolonged winter period actually makes you much stronger, because as we've seen so many times the last few weeks, I wouldn't have been the me that I'm now if it wasn't for that long winter season that I had to figure out things for myself by the grace of God.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Tessa, did you get the question in terms of just the youngest age you can remember of your largest negative and the youngest age of your positive? Can you help us with that? Okay, it's battling with your phone. Okay, but you're going to type it there. Tess, just type your age there, it will help us. All right, let's hear from Marina. Just in terms of the seasons of life, what we learned with you. Again, you're the average. The average is the negative experience at about 7 and the positive experience around 13, which is the average of human race, by the way. I'm not surprised, by the way. Yes, Marina? I'm not surprised. Yes, Marina?
Sorry, also my phone is slow like me tonight. Well, I grew up, since I can remember, my dad was drinking. And he was just drinking. That was it. He never beat anyone or whatever, but you grew up with that fear. And then, unfortunately, my winter was still about my 40s when I realized it's not my problem. I can't solve his problem. He's 74, he's not getting over it, whatever it is that makes him drinking. But then, unfortunately, yeah, I grew up with that. Then I leave home, and that was easier then because you're not confronted with that every day. But then it makes you not want to go home. I'm losing time with my parents because I don't want to see him drunk. It upsets me. And then just my 40s, I realized I mustn't. I have to take control. I decided that won't let me. Well, I didn't see him that often, but I just didn't let that upset me that much like it used to be, which I just should have done earlier in my life.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so what I'm going to do, because we're running out of time, I'm now going to turn this. I just want to give you first, yes, the statistics that on average, 80% of people experience their negative around the age 7 to 10. And on average, the people experience their positives between 13 and 17. That is what it looks like in society. Now I want to talk and turn this into from a season. When you achieved your positive, how did that, from a season point of view, William, I'm going to start with you. The moment you got your colors at age 13, what did it do for you in terms of your self-belief? What did it do?
Anthony, can I just please ask the other people to unmute because you have got to, we hear you twice. Just
okay, everybody just mute yourselves, please.
Thank you. Anthony, yes, what's your question? What did the positive, how did it help me because of the negative? Is that your question?
That season you went in, would you describe that positive was a summer? And how long did that summer last?
Oh, how long the summer last? Quite 3-4 years.
Very good. How did it make you feel? Because obviously you had the negatives that kept you back. You were 12 years old. that will be in the back of your mind. Did that positive have sufficient kick to eradicate the negative experience at that stage? Yes or no?
Yes, and the positive came because of the negative. I wanted to
Okay.
show the people that I wanted to show them.
Okay, so like most other people, you started becoming a performer. And this is true, guys, because what happens is because of other people that say you're not good enough, that belittle you and what have you, you say, I will show you. And therefore you go to the extreme of becoming what we call a performer. That plays a vital role in terms of how we grow in our relationships, because it's in your subconscious having to prove yourself at all times. And your other partner will come to a point and say, stop having to prove yourself. I love you the way you are. But it's built into that framework of how we cope with life. So I'm just using that as a deduction for everybody. Now, I gave you the solution, the head, heart, hand principle. The battle that we have most of this time, do you guys think it's in the head, or do you think it's in the heart, or do you think it's in the hands? Let's ask Sonia, where do you think the battle remains? Looking at those three categories.
For myself, I would say my head and my heart.
It starts with the head and then it resonates in the heart, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Mainly because of everything that I've been through, my subconscious, it keeps on coming back and keeps on pulling me back.
Okay.
So whenever I get to a situation where I feel positive, my head says go for it, but my heart holds myself back because I'm so scared that I'm going to get broken again, that I'm trying to defend myself.
Okay. Now I want to explain something to you guys. Here's my sketch. It looks like an egg. Some of you have seen this before. There you go. Life works like an egg. The outside of the egg is called the body. The inside is called the soul. And the center, the nucleus of the egg, is called the spirit. We all are basically come from that. But that soul dimension has got 3 dimensions. Soul means will, mind, and emotion. So it's will, mind, and emotion. So when you and I battle with the head, heart, hand principle, we battle in the soul area. Can you guys see that? Because your will, your mind, and your emotion is encapsulated in the soul area. But the moment you move here to the middle, the spirit, that's where you move to heart. That's why Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart, for from it is the wellspring of life. Now think of water and think of life. We understand that water is life. Without water, this universe cannot exist. You can still go without food for a time, but you cannot go without water, because the water is a stage, because water is life. And that is why there's assimilation of the spiritual water, that water is life. That's why when we deal with these seasons, the longer we stay in the soul dimension with our will, our mind, and emotion, that is like sort of 3 opposing partners. Then the will is against the mind is against the emotions. It's really all that part of the soul. But when you transition, is when you hit the heart section, where you take to heart that I start living, for instance, a life of gratitude. Doesn't matter what the negative was. And you start looking at, I was sharing with an athlete the other day, they said to me, what inspires you? They actually said to me, how is it that old people like you can be cycling and running, but young people like us, look at us, look how fat we are. We can't do anything. And I realized that the person was in the soul dimension. And I said, you know, the truth is, I watch a video every now and then of a guy that's got no legs that actually runs a 21 kilometer on his stompies. He literally pushes himself on the stompies and his arms. And it looks like a monkey, moving on, moving on, moving on. Imagine you sitting on your bum and pushing yourself all the time. And I remember that picture in my mind, and it immediately takes me to a position of gratitude. And the moment you have more gratitude in your life, it's as if the negatives start dissipating, start disappearing. So what I'm going to invite all of us to do is to take this timeline and to find that picture in your mind, like I now have for exercise and taking responsibility and accountability to be fit and to be healthy, is I see that picture of the guy that does what I never wanted to do. I say, Lord, I thank you so much that I have my legs. And the position of gratitude inspires me, that the living water starts bubbling on the inside of me and I start acting upon it. Whereas the moment I was in my mind, I'm tired, I've worked so many hours, I don't feel like exercise, I just don't want to do it. I had to get a picture to change my season. And I went from winter in exercise, where I was heavily overweight, to making a plan and taking accountability. Now, I'm going to be vulnerable with you and show you a photograph tonight, if that's okay with you. May I show you a personal photograph? I'm asking permission. Yes? No?
Yes.
Okay. 1 yes is good enough. Look on the right. That's me. Can you see it says special of the day? I was so fat they wanted to eat me.
I don't believe you.
That's me. 5 years ago, guys.
Can't believe it.
5 years ago.
No.
No.
All right.
That must be your stepbrother, the evil one.
But it's reality. And I have the before and I have the after to remind myself when I was battling in my mind, when I started and I made the change over to guarding my heart for the wellspring of life and getting the ability to break free and now live a life of gratitude to continue saying, I want to make a difference. So I'm teaching you a technique, how to move from your head to your heart. That's what I'm sharing. And this is not just only for physical, because remember, we have 5 areas of need: physical, spiritual, financial, emotional, and social. Those are the 5 areas. So you need to go and plot yourself in those 5 areas. Can I say them again for you? Physical, spiritual, financial, emotional, and social. So what you and I want to do is to go and plot our seasons through those 5 areas. You'll find that your season for physical looks way different like your season for emotional. In the case of ladies, we normally find that the emotional season is the one that endures the longest, whereas men tend to do things, being more logical thinkers. And this is a generalization. It's not for everybody, but it's a generalization in terms of how population works. And that because the logical side, men sort of push it under the carpet and as if it doesn't exist. So I thought of tonight of just sharing with you the principle of how do we break free from a lifeline where you have more negatives than what we have positives, and is moving from your head to move to your heart and start living a life of gratitude. So your homework is to go and write down an entire foolscap page. How many lines is there in a foolscap page? You can tell me. How many lines is there on a page like this?
3, I think.
How many?
Isn't it 33?
It's
29?
33. So what you want to do is you want to go and write down 33 things that you are grateful for.
Yeah.
So that when you, and this is your homework, when you look at your lifeline, you look at the seasons again, that sufficient gratitude that you will go through on a daily basis and read it for 7 days and say, Lord, I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for, I'm grateful for. You do that for 7 days, you are reprogramming yourself to go from the head to the heart. Okay. And by the way, a lot of other people pay a lot of money to get the information you just got. You got it for free. Okay. So celebrate it. Good. So now for the last, does anybody want to make a comment for this section that I'm wrapping up, because I want to go to the final section for tonight?
Doc, about 3 years ago, Wayne and we attended one of our previous associations with, and we started this whole gratitude journal and everything like that. And when I walk around the park, we've got a huge park. Now, my small steps, it's 522 steps to walk around the park. So I make sure that for every 5th step, or that's how long it takes me to process, I am grateful for, I am grateful for. So at least twice that I walk around, I am just grateful. And after that, then I start praising and praying and whatever and so on. And putting out there. But it's got to start every day with I'm grateful for. Thank you that I can breathe. I'm grateful for. So it has
Wonderful.
definitely changed our lives.
Fantastic. Willie, hand is up.
Dr. Yeah, just something as what I realized also in my life, there was a second thing later in my life that happened that I had the same thing as the negative, and then I wanted to show them or myself. And I've just learned that whole thing to get that achievement, that only stop at the soul part, the head, heart, and hands were completed, but not the spiritual side. So there was still emptiness, although I could show them.
Perfect. Well, I can just relate to all of you. The question that you should be asking is, these 4 seasons, how long does the average person take to circle from one to the next? The average person does so every 2 years. Goes through all of those. Although we have that in 1 year, the average person in Lifeline experiences a total cycle in every 2 years of their life. Now you can either spiral and spiral down, or you can spiral and spiral up. That's where change management comes in, but we don't have time to talk about that, because the circle of change management is that you circle up, circle back, but you always have in the direction of going up. Yes, Willie? You agree? That's it, go up. Okay. So what we're going to do now is you need to read me your acronym for the word rest. Sorry, I'm just going to have to get a bit of water, but let's start with Tessa. Maybe you want to type that down. Thank you so much, my love. Maybe you want to type just from your side, starting with that. What acronym did, I know George did his homework, so I'll share it with everybody while you type that. And then Michelle Rogers, I don't know if you had time to do your homework, and that is, what is your acronym for rest? Give me a word for R-E-S-T. Shoot, Michelle Rogers. And all of a sudden she's quiet, which means, okay, I'll move to the next person. Sonia du Toit, give me yours for rest.
All right, I did a lot of homework around the word rest and a lot of thinking. With R, I've got 4 words: release, rise, remember, and ripple.
Love it.
What I will do is I will, on a Mokimind group, I will post what I've done with each one of them.
Perfect.
With E, I've got empathy, empower, and enter.
Okay.
With S, I've got surrender.
Yeah.
And with T, I've got truth and transition.
So now what you want to do is to give me one sentence, how you pull that like a necklace together. Tell me your recipe for rest. We're listening. Go.
Wow. That's a good question. A very good question.
Shoot, just let it come from the gut. Just look at those words and go.
I feel that when it comes to you as a person, with the words that I've done, is whatever bonds you, you need to, in some way, you need to release it, get rid of it, to be able to move forward and to rise to your full potential.
Good so far.
But
Stop.
also,
Okay, hold on. Stop.
Doing, sorry?
I said stop, because that's good so far. What I want to teach you first is the summarized version, because what you're not doing is what we call the rabbit hole version. You need to first do the summary version before you can do a rabbit hole. Now, we don't have time to do rabbit hole for everybody. So I'm I'm going to give you the example of what yours looks like. Are you ready to listen?
Yes.
For me to rest, as Sonia Latoya is, that I've learned to release the things that hold me back and rise up to the occasion while I remember the things that did affect me, because it is a ripple effect in my life. Therefore, I've got empathy with myself as I empower myself to move to the next level and I enter into the new phase of my life. Why? Because of the power to surrender, because I spoke truth in my life and therefore I experienced the transition.
Wow. That is awesome.
Wow.
That's what I want all of you to get right tonight. That's how you do it.
That's a
Luckily,
wow.
there's a recording. We can listen to this again. Thank
You're going to have
goodness
to
for
listen to
that.
the recording. Okay, so then what you do is, what you start to do is give us the rabbit hole of what it meant to release, and then you will extrapolate and you will literally speak on this topic for 7 minutes. So each one of you, if you would like to break free from learning how to rest, speak on this topic for 7 minutes and make a recording for yourself. And then you're welcome to share it with each other, because this is where you break free, when you share your journey of rest. Let's see who's brave next. Leonie, you are in my target. Go. I'm writing down.
I'm no queen of acronyms, but I gave it my best shot. For me, rest just encompasses the resist externals stealing your tranquility.
Resist.
Or externals or exterior components. Resist externals stealing tranquility.
External.
And it's like an inside out.
Soothing tranquility.
Stealing. Resist external stealing your tranquility.
Sealing. Okay.
Robbing you from
tranquility.
Yeah. So
and
basically, it's an inside out
now
job.
See how just your 4 words forms a story.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now what I want you to do is to give in a one-liner, put those together and just maybe add 2 or 3 words so that we can contextualize what you said. Ready? Go.
It's an inside out job. Don't let external circumstances influence and steal your joy.
Beautiful. Well done. Lovely. Marina, you ready?
Not really. I haven't done homework.
But give us your, have you got 4 words for rest? Yes or no? Have you got your words for rest?
Rest, I would say me time, uplift and relax.
No, you have to make an acronym. The R must stand for something, the E must stand for something, the S must stand for something, the T must stand for something. That's the homework. It's an acronym. Okay, while you think about it,
yeah,
I'll give Willie, I know you're ready. Go, Willie. First, give us the 4 words, and then you give us the sentence.
Okay, I've got a few words. So in for interest sake, I've got Afrikaans words as well. So it's rustig raak, effentjies, is the S, and then T, and then in Afrikaans of T. In English, reconcile, reel out, ease out, enough, silence, sit, stop, time out, thanks. So
Okay,
yeah,
now slowly give us your story with those words in English, please.
Okay. I want to ease out and give us a little bit of silence and bring the tea so that we can reconcile and stop hurrying in life.
Good enough. Thank you, Willie. Good for it. There's no right and there's no wrong, guys. I'm teaching you a new way of how to channel emotion. Shalane, you want to shoot?
Yes,
what are your 4 words?
4 words. First one is resolve. Second one is evaluate. The third one is solve. And the T is for transform. So sometimes when I've got a problem, I'll sleep on the matter to resolve it. I form an idea which I evaluate. I get a solution to the problem. And then sometimes it's a dramatic change, maybe in appearance or character.
Lovely. Well done. Can you see that it's becoming easier and easier for you guys because you're now hearing it, right? Liz Hawk, shoot.
Okay, so my 4 words are restore, express, splendor, and triumphant.
Go.
So it starts off by restore our hope, by expressing our gratitude about the splendor of God's presence in our lives, and we are triumphant over every situation that comes.
Beautiful. Love that. Okay. I'm going to read Michelle Rogers there. I rejoice in my life, and I'm satisfied with the training I received out of the Bible and exercise what I've learned. Beautiful. Thank you. Then I'm going to have here from Tessa. It's either Tessa or George. I think it's, rejuvenate and recharge, energize and electrify, slow down, become still, teach and train. So Tessa, seeing that your sound is playing up, it means the following. For me to rest, I do believe I need to seek time to rejuvenate myself as I recharge my batteries. Because recharging my batteries will energize me and even bring an energy level that is electrifying. Why? Because I've slowed down and I've become still and quiet. And in so, I've allowed myself to be taught as I'm taught, because that trains me to go to the next level. Tessa Butler. There you go. Right. Who's next? Wilma, yes. Go, Wilma.
Okay, so unfortunately I missed last week, but I did, as our conversation tonight started, do the acronym of REST, and I wrote down read eagerly spiritual testimonies. And the second acronym I've got, readily empower singular truth.
Hold on, a bit fast because I need to get back feedback to Dr. Michelle here. So reading eagerly spiritual testimonies, right? And the second one?
Yeah. Readily empower singular truth.
Regularly empower singular truth.
Truth. I think the one is inward and the other one is outward.
Inward and outward. Oh, I like this. Inward and outward. Okay. So guys, I'm teaching you something that is free to everybody because so little people use this. Let me see. Who did I not have? Leonie, did I skip you? I waited for you.
You must probably just didn't write that down.
That's what I'm like. Leonie, just give me the words because I just realized I don't see Leonie yet. Just give it to me again.
It's resist.
That's right.
Externals.
External, yeah.
Stealing your tranquility.
That's right, tranquility. Oh, so obviously you don't have to put the sentence together because somebody did it for you, didn't they? Okay. Is there anybody that wants to ask a question on the exercise before I give you what I came up with? Any questions?
I'm exhilarated.
Wilma, what is that? Blah, blah, blah. What did you say?
I said I'm exhilarated by the input that everybody gives. There's not one.
It's stunning.
Person.
Can you see that nobody is the same?
Yeah.
Marina?
And it's
got yours. I've got yours, Shalane. Listen, I've done everybody. Okay. I think it's only fair that I tell you guys what I had. This is just 3 messages.
And did Shell do his?
Oh, yes, Anton. Rescue, evaluate, support, and train. Oh, I like that. Anton. Let's quickly write down for Michelle. It was rescue, evaluate, support, and train. You can see that Anton works with Michelle as a trainer. That is why this makes so much sense. Okay. So Anton, here's your one sentence. When I rest, I allow myself to be rescued from a situation that brings me stress because I've got the ability to evaluate as I go along. because I've got so many people who love me and are in support. And therefore, I train myself to rest through the situation. That's yours. George, recoup, energizing, stop, look, tackle your problem with new vigor. I like that. Okay, and this is Tessa's one sentence. I recharge and rejuvenate in order to recharge, slow down so I can teach and train my soul to be still. Beautiful. Can I read it again? I recharge and rejuvenate in order to recharge and slow down so I can teach and train my soul to be still. Guys, you're getting it. That's really what tonight was about, is for you to take your acronym and to make it work for you. All right. I had 3 words for the R, 3 for the E, 3 for the S, 3 for the T. Can I shoot?
Yes.
Let's see how many of these come up. I had restore, review, refresh. Escape, evaluate, extract. Sleep, sing, sex. Tune in, take stock, tahila. I guess it needs some explaining. Tahila means dance for joy.
Does that go with this?
So now I can take the first, I can take and have 1, 2, 3 stories, or I can get them all together. And Valley would have known I had sex in there somewhere. It's resting, guys. Come now. All right. For me to rest, I need to find a place to restore myself as I review what has kept me so busy, so that I can look forward to refresh myself. Therefore, I escape from my current situation because I have the ability to evaluate and extract that which keeps me back. Therefore, I step up and I sleep more. And because it brings joy to me, I can sing more and, thank you, Lord, enjoy my sex more. So I remain tuned into my Creator as I take stock of my life so that I can tahila, that means dance for joy, because I'm resting. There you go. Easy as that. There's no right and there's no wrong. Just let it flow. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, our hour is gone. And I trust that tonight was meaningful and that you can take these principles forward as you, number one, take your lifeline and learn lessons from the positives and the negatives in terms of moving to the next level. Number two, as you take your lifeline and realize that everybody will go through seasons, and the 4 seasons will revisit you normally in every 2-year cycle. But the truth is, what will you learn? Will you allow it to drag you down or to lift you up? And then we also learned that there's a head, heart, hand principle where as you embrace the positives of life and turn them into gratitude, that you can move from your head to your heart so that your hands will then have a new testimony. And then we looked at using the acronym, and this time we just used the word rest in terms of how can we have a word that describes that word, but rest overall, and then to make it and personalize it to how does it play a role in our lives. With that, fluit, my story is 8. Thank you, guys. Love you.
Hi, Dunky.
And
Thanks,
next
Dogan.
week, you'll have the teacher of teachers back. You put up with me tonight, but you'll have the great didaskalos back next week. Love you guys. Take care.
God bless. Good night, everyone.
Night.